You spend 30 years being everybody's favorite nice guy, the world forgets you can hold a grudge. Mark Martin built a reputation on respect, sportsmanship, and a refusal to play dirty that made him the most beloved driver who never won a championship. 40 victories, 96 wins across all series. 5 times he finished second in the championship. 5 times he watched someone else celebrate what he believed should have been his. But behind the grace and the Arkansas humility, there were drivers he could not stand, men who cost him titles he never got back, who crossed lines while he stayed clean, who made him wonder if nice guys really do finish last. At 57 years old, Martin finally breaks his silence. 5 drivers. 5 names he never said out loud. Until now, before we reveal the 5 drivers Mark Martin could not stand, we need to understand what made his respect so valuable. Because from a man who gave it to everyone, withholding it meant something extraordinary. Mark Martin was born on January 9th, 1969, in Batesville, Arkansas. Racing was not a Southern tradition or family legacy passed through generations. It was built in a small-town body shop by a father who worked as a truck driver and a son who believed talent could overcome geography. When Martin reached the Cup Series in the early 1980s, he carried that small-town foundation into every garage he entered. His breakthrough victory came at Rockingham in 1989 with Jack Roush's team. That partnership would define both careers. Martin won 40 Cup races and 49 Xfinity races across 3 decades of racing. 96 total victories that proved his talent belonged in every conversation about the greatest drivers of his generation. But championships never came. 5 times Martin finished second in points. 1990, 1994, 1998, 2002, 2009. 5 different decades, 5 different opportunities. 5 times he watched someone else lift the trophy he believed he had earned. That pattern created a legacy more complicated than victories alone could define. The best driver to never win a championship. A title that honored his talent while memorializing his heartbreak. Martin raced clean when others played dirty. He showed respect when competitors offered none. He maintained professionalism that made everyone around him look better simply by comparison. That reputation made him universally beloved, but it also made him wonder privately if staying clean had cost him titles that aggressive drivers took by force. At 57 years old, Mark Martin finally names the drivers who tested that philosophy beyond its breaking point. Number 5, Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon and Mark Martin raced against each other for nearly 2 decades. On paper, they should have been allies. Both were talented, both were professional, and both represented a newer generation of drivers who understood media responsibilities beyond the garage. But championships created distance that professionalism could never bridge. Gordon won his first championship in 1995, while Martin finished 4th. Then Gordon won again in 1997, and 1998, and 2001. 4 championships in 7 years, while Martin collected exactly 0 across the same span, despite winning races and finishing in the top 5 consistently enough to prove his talent matched Gordon's in every measurable way, except the one that ultimately mattered. At Martinsville, Gordon squeezed Martin entering Turn 3 with a move so aggressive it forced Martin to choose between contact and surrendering the position. Martin chose to lift. Gordon drove away with the win. After the race, Martin's response was measured but pointed. He called the move aggressive for someone already leading the points. For a driver who rarely criticized opponents publicly, that statement revealed genuine frustration. The tension grew at Bristol when Gordon blocked Martin on the final restart with a commitment that went beyond racing and crossed into territory Martin believed violated unwritten rules about how champions should compete against drivers still chasing their first title. Martin saved his position, but the manner of Gordon's blocking felt like dismissal rather than competition. Off the track, the comparison never stopped. Reporters constantly asked Martin if he could match Gordon's 4 championships. Every time Martin finished second in points, Gordon's success became the measuring stick. That constant comparison created resentment Martin rarely showed but felt deeply. For a driver who had given the sport everything, watching Gordon collect championships that talent alone suggested should have been more evenly distributed felt genuinely unfair. Number 4. Rusty Wallace. Rusty Wallace represented everything Mark Martin refused to become. Wallace bumped under caution. He door-slammed competitors entering corners. He treated sheet metal contact as communication rather than consequence. And he won a championship in 1989 using tactics Martin believed crossed ethical boundaries that talent should never require. At Richmond, Wallace bumped Martin so hard on the final restart that the contact nearly spun Martin's car into the inside wall. Martin saved it through pure instinct, but the positions lost cost him a top 5 finish he had earned through cleaner racing. After the race, Martin's frustration was visible. He called Wallace's move unnecessary and suggested that winning should not require pushing competitors off the track. Then came Martinsville. Wallace held his line through contact that Martin believed required one driver to lift before disaster arrived. Martin lifted. Wallace kept going. The incident defined everything Martin despised about drivers who treated aggression as virtue rather than last resort. For a driver who believed racing had a code that everyone should respect, watching Wallace win through tactics Martin refused to employ created a resentment that never fully disappeared. Rusty Wallace was not just aggressive. He was proof that playing dirty sometimes worked better than staying clean. Number 3. Dale Earnhardt. Dale Earnhardt cost Mark Martin his first championship. That sentence alone explains why Earnhardt sits on this list. In 1990, Martin finished second in points to Earnhardt by 26 points. 26 points across an entire season. The margin felt microscopic compared to the incidents that created it. At North Wilkesboro, Earnhardt bumped Martin entering turn 1 with contact that sent the 6-car loose through the corner. Martin saved it, but positions were lost that he never recovered. At Charlotte, Earnhardt blocked Martin on the final restart with an aggression that forced Martin to choose between contact at racing speed or surrendering track position. Martin chose survival. Earnhardt chose the championship. Those moments accumulated throughout the season into a total that separated first place from second by a margin so small it haunted Martin for decades. He understood racing was physical. He accepted that champions needed to race hard, but he believed there were boundaries that talent should never require crossing. Earnhardt disagreed, and that disagreement cost Martin the one championship he believed would validate everything he had sacrificed. Off the track, Earnhardt's intimidation tactics extended beyond racing. He used his reputation deliberately. He made younger drivers nervous through presence alone. For Martin, who believed respect should be earned through skill rather than fear, Earnhardt's approach felt like psychological warfare disguised as competition. The intimidator was not just aggressive. He was deliberately threatening in ways Martin found genuinely offensive to what the sport should represent. Dale Earnhardt earned his place on this list because he took the one thing Mark Martin wanted most and used tactics Martin refused to employ to get it. Number 2. Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch arrived in Cup racing with talent, undeniable, and an attitude that irritated veterans before he completed a full season. He raced with zero respect for drivers who had spent decades earning their reputations. He squeezed Martin at Martinsville. He blocked him aggressively at Bristol. And he talked in interviews as if 20 years of experience meant nothing compared to raw speed. At Richmond, Busch forced Martin high in traffic during a late restart, costing him positions Martin had earned through better tire management and racecraft. After the race, Martin's response was uncharacteristically direct. He called Busch's racing Over-aggressive for someone still learning the sport. For a driver who rarely criticized opponents publicly, that statement revealed genuine frustration with drivers who believed talent excused disrespect. Then came Darlington. Busch bumped Martin so hard entering Turn 3 that contact was unavoidable. Martin saved the car, but the manner of Busch's aggression felt deliberate rather than competitive. It was not racing for position. It was a younger driver testing a veteran to see if respect could be taken by force rather than earned through consistency. Off the track, Busch's personality made reconciliation impossible. He dismissed veterans as outdated. He treated Martin's clean racing style as weakness rather than character. For Mark Martin, who had spent 30 years proving nice guys could compete at the highest level, Kurt Busch represented everything wrong with drivers who confused aggression with courage. Number 1. Matt Kenseth. There was only one driver who truly broke Mark Martin's heart more than any other. Matt Kenseth. Not an enemy, not a rival who raced dirty, but a teammate who took the one championship Martin believed should have been his, using the team, the resources, and the foundation Martin had helped build. Matt Kenseth joined Roush Racing and learned from watching Mark Martin race. He studied Martin's consistency. He adopted Martin's professionalism. He built his career using the same playbook Martin had written across 15 years with Jack Roush. Then, in 2003, Kenseth won the championship while Martin finished second. Again, for the 4th time in his career. The margin was not created through aggressive racing or controversial incidents. Kenseth simply executed the Martin formula more consistently that season. He avoided mistakes Martin made. He capitalized on opportunities Martin missed. He won the title using tactics Martin had pioneered, making the loss feel less like defeat and more like betrayal by his own methodology. Martin never blamed Kenseth publicly. He congratulated him professionally. But privately, the pain ran deeper than any championship loss before it. This was not Dale Earnhardt bumping him at North Wilkesboro. This was not Jeff Gordon winning with superior equipment. This was his own teammate, racing for his own team, winning the championship that Martin had spent 17 years building. Roush Racing to deliver. Off the track, their relationship remained professional, but distant. They shared the same garage, the same owner, the same championship expectations. But the 2003 season created a distance that professionalism could never fully bridge. For Mark Martin, Matt Kenseth sits at number 1 because he proved something Martin feared his entire career. Playing nice and racing clean was not enough. Sometimes the driver who learned from you became the driver who replaced you. Mark Martin spent 30 years being the nicest driver the sport ever produced. Jeff Gordon, Rusty Wallace, Dale Earnhardt, Kurt Busch, and Matt Kenseth tested that patience beyond its breaking point. They took championships, crossed lines, and made him wonder if staying clean cost him everything. At 57, Martin finally tells the truth. Even nice guys remember. Subscribe for more untold racing stories.